Hi everyone. So I had a couple of videos earlier that did pretty good, and they got a lot of good comments and some really original takes on things. Mainly, I'm talking about the ones for America. So just as a brief recap, America Chavez started as a good character in the Ultimates and Young Avengers, and then SJW Marvel decided to make her a hateful, racist, segregationist, cliche stereotype of a Puerto Rican New Yorker, even though she's a non-human from another dimension. I say she's non-human because she literally doesn't have a father, and she's the genetic, result of two mothers. So I would say that's not human, whatever species she is. But anyway, so we got two good takes from some Hispanic readers. One of it he basically said what I've said. This is racist. They think the only reason people identify with characters is because they match surface traits. The other reader, who was Hispanic, he said he looked up the author and was surprised to find out she was Hispanic. He said, how can she be so bad at writing Hispanic characters? And then there was another really good story about a guy who was an electrician, lifelong Marvel fan. He gets a gig to go work at Marvel headquarters in New York for a couple days, and he finds this completely miserable land of people sitting in dark cubicles and not talking, and just everyone's terrified and miserable all the time. So it really made me think about so these were all very human, normal reactions like you'd get from anyone. And I was like, what is going on that the people at SJW Marvel, which is what it still is for the most part, what confuses them so much about basic human nature that they're just utterly baffled, and they get so many things so wrong. So we've talked about aspects of they basically become a very political company, and it's kind of like an echo chamber. You got to have the right politics. It's basically why you get hired and why you stay. Or you're just like a glad hander. I don't think Chip Zdarsky has a political thought in his head. He's just like a human Fozzie Bear. So one of the things, and then I brought up in another video earlier, I had this weird kind of like sci-fi idea about nega-humans. Nega-humans are basically sociopaths, but it's like if there was a race of sociopaths, which they would they would be all different races, but it's like their own their little secret species. So one of the things that Marvel just does not get is that they don't understand why people identify with characters. They seem to think that Marvel... So one of the things about Marvel, SJW Marvel, is that they hate... It drives them nuts that most of their clientele is late 30s, early 40s white guys. This drives them insane, and they seem to be blaming this on Matt Murdock and Peter Parker and Frank Castle and Wolverine and Captain America, all of them being white. And they seem to think, oh man, we really want, a cooler, hipper, younger audience, but they're not going to buy our comics because it's a bunch of white guys. So let's make everyone, it's like that joke from Simpsons from 25 years ago. Let's Rostify them by 35%. So they put out these characters, and they're terrible. And like this reader says, why is an Hispanic woman so bad at writing a Hispanic character? Because they fundamentally just don't understand humans at this point. I think we've literally found a nega-human enclave where they all kind of... When I was in the Army, the funny thing is I was in the Marines and the Army, and the Army's really big. A lot bigger than the Marines. The funny thing is that even in the bigger Army, if there were 3 absolute dirtbags in an entire battalion, somehow, and I mean they're in different companies in the battalion, somehow they will all gravitate towards each other and become best friends, and then guess who's breaking into houses, on base housing. So it is this weird thing where all these kind of nega-humans have all slowly hired each other, they've gravitated towards each other, and now you have a whole company full of weirdos who don't understand basic human nature. So this guy who describes himself as, I can't tell if he's Mexican or Mexican American, he basically says, I like Hulk, the real Hulk, Bruce Banner from the comics. So that's why I put this picture, and he's very concise, and I'm not sure exactly what appeals to what about Bruce Banner and the Hulk appeals to them, but I can guess several of the factors because there's a lot of primal themes to the Bruce Banner Hulk story that any actual human can feel. So you can see it from the side of Bruce Banner where, everyone thinks you're a joke and you're kind of like bubbling up with rage, you want to explode. But then there's the other aspect of, you can see it from the Hulk, where the Hulk is actually trying to do the opposite. He's trying to calm down. This picture of the Hulk is Hulk's standard thing was to get away from people. And one aspect of that is that humans hated him and he hated humans. But the way I interpret it is that humans hated him and he didn't hate humans, so he always wanted to get away from them so he didn't hurt them. You always think about the Hulk as being someone who's exhibiting strength, but from the Hulk's perspective, he's constantly trying to exhibit finesse. He's trying to not kill people, not cause earthquakes, not knock all the buildings down in Manhattan. So I understand how this would appeal to someone, and you can say a lot of it's about like anger, power, powerlessness, feeling separate from others, and then just the power fantasy of like, what if I was really strong? The weirdo nega-humans at Marvel say, well, the only reason you would like Bruce Banner is if you're a white guy, maybe even like a skinny white guy who's a nerd. They can't comprehend how this guy who's Mexican, he's like, well, how can he understand? No, there's no connection. The Mexican guy is going to like America because she's Hispanic. She's not even Hispanic. She's like pseudo-Hispanic. She's like margarine Hispanic. She's just an alien with brown skin, and as all of these like Hispanic commenters, they like, why are they saying all Hispanics are brown? And the funny thing is that if you look at Gabby Rivera, I didn't do a face reveal earlier, but I did a chin reveal. I think I'm darker than Gabby Rivera. So it's this weird thing about like just these surface level skin, like literally like skin tone and stuff like that. So I think this is a thing that has to do with a lot of things. I think it's the nega-human aspect of they've basically reached a quorum, which is kind of like, it means they've gone past the tipping point. They've got a majority or a super majority. But I think the other thing is that when normal people get in, and that's what I kind of gleaned from the story that the electrician shared, that this is a very scary place. I think one of the reasons they hire these SJWs and very young people, I've been reading, bullpen bulletins and all this stuff. It's kind of weird how Marvel has two really odd things they're doing. Number one, almost all the editors are men and almost all the assistant editors are women. And number two, the assistant editors seem to do way more work than assistant editors have ever done. I mean, back in the day, it would be the editor answering the letters. It would be the editor doing interviews. And now it's the assistant editors on everything. So I think it's, number one, they're hiring people that are very political. Number two, they're hiring people that are very cheap and they know they're replaceable. So when this electrician described a very miserable place where everyone was tense and quiet, this is I recognize like the tense and quiet is a thing you do in the military to like have the big angry boss just move past and not target, because someone's going to get target. It's very much put out there that they're hiring a bunch of 22-year-olds. They're paying them nothing, and they've made it very clear that you're very, very replaceable. So there's that aspect of fear. And then there's that other aspect of there's enough people who just don't understand basic human nature. So they keep trying something, and when they don't succeed, they don't adjust their expectations or adjust their theory. They say, oh, we've just found out that our readers are more racist than we even thought they were. And you go on Twitter, they'll call any Marvel reader, longtime reader, a racist at the drop of a hat. they don't understand their. And the other thing this electrician talks about, he was on a ladder, and they were having a meeting, and they were discussing Marvel history, and they were just getting it all wrong. Like they just don't understand it. And you see this constantly. You see this stuff with like they use characters and they don't understand them. Like Nick Spencer will use Taskmaster, and Taskmaster will just be like a generic bad guy who just gets knocked out with like 3 punches. He doesn't really care about reading about him. He's just a generic. It's like, OMG, I've heard of that guy. I'm just going to use him. But the biggest thing is they seem to despise their audience, and they're very frustrated with their total lack of understanding of human nature. That comes from, I think, a significant percentage of them being these nega-humans, as I call them. And then another one is that they're hiring people very young, younger than they've ever hired them. And then the other aspect is the older ones. It seems like a lot of them are childless. Dan Slott, I don't think Dan Slott's ever been on a date in his whole life. A lot of the senior editors, they're on Twitter all day long. They never mention family ever. And then the rest of them are just 22-year-olds with 5 roommates. They still don't know who they are, so they're still trying to learn about the world. Then they see these older ones treating the fans like trash and having these just like ridiculous theories about, the way you get black people is you have a black character. It's not true, not remotely true. So tell me what you think about my nega-humans theory and the fundamental appeal of characters, and how the biggest problem, not even the politics, because like I said, I think half the people there are just shutting up because they see that the higher-ups are very vocal about one type of politics. I don't think everyone at Marvel has one type of politics, but I think they know if they don't have it, they know to just be very quiet. So tell me what you think about my theories. I actually thought this video was going to be about one thing. It turned out to be about 4 things. Tell me what you think is, like, just name a random character. Like, what is the appeal of Matt Murdock? What is the appeal of Spider-Man? What's the appeal of the Punisher? And leave your comments. I read all the comments. One thing I'm finding out is that subscriptions are good. I always like them because you can count them, but it seems like notifications are better for getting alerts. Actually, and then I hovered over something. I did this thing where I was kind of checking out the competition, some other comic sites, and I noticed that when I hit subscribe, a little pop-up said most of these will go into your suggestions. So subscriptions isn't a guarantee that you're going to get alerted. That seems to be what notifications is better at. So subscribe and notifications. I just used to just mention notifications a little bit. It looks like they're both equally important. Like, share, leave your comments. I read all the comments, and I went and got a bunch of new comics today, so those will be up tomorrow. And I'm also going to do a Marvel before SJW. Thanks for watching.